So I think we can get started at this point. And first of all, just to kind of make sure that we are all on the same page, I know some of you already started even trying out the system. Some of you have been talking to our sales team and got to see a demo of the platform. But in any case, I would like to quickly take a high-level view and look at what Bringg is and what Bringg does. So Bringg is a web-based platform to manage deliveries and logistics in a smart, frictionless way. It allows you full visibility to where your team is, whether it is delivery drivers or couriers, whether it is technicians that you have in the field driving towards the customers. As long as you have team that is away from you, and I'm sure all of you understand this pain point. As long as you have your team driving around, not around you, not where you can see them, what we allow you is full visibility into what's going on, and smart management tool for this team. And in addition, as you all probably know already, we also provide you with a great customer experience for your customers. So using Bringg, you allow your customers also to gain full visibility into where the delivery or where the service is on the way to them. And we will look into that real quick. So the Bringg ecosystem, as you can see it right now on my screen, is comprised of three main players, as we call them. In the middle, we can see the Bringg management dashboard. This is what we will look into mostly today. We're kind of going to set different things up on the dashboard, see what you can learn from the dashboard, and how to really start using it in a good way that fits your business. So the management dashboard is a web-based dashboard that you can access from any computer or tablet. There is also a lean version for dispatchers. If you have dispatchers that are on the field but still have to know what's going on and kind of manage the day, there is another mobile app called Bringg Dispatcher that will show you a leaner version of the dashboard that is suitable for day-to-day management. So you'll see your drivers or couriers or technicians, and you'll see where they are and what they do. You can assign orders. A very nice tool for dispatchers that are in the field. Other than the management dashboard that we have kind of in the middle, connecting all of the different pieces, we also have a driver app. The driver app, that's the Bringg app you can find on App Store and Google Play Store. It's a native mobile app that your drivers can use, and it's actually a very nice tool for your drivers to kind of manage their day. They see the list of tasks that they need to do. They see all the details about the tasks. They can navigate towards a customer, and we will see all of that in detail in just another minute. And the third piece is the customer interface. So what we're looking at right now is just a mock application that we made up for this demo called Sushi Samba. This is the origin of the order. The origin of the order can be your own native ordering app. It can be a website, your website. It can be phone calls. So any kind of origin works with Bringg. And again, once we look at the live dashboard, we will discuss this in more details. The customer experience on Bringg, however, the default off-the-shelf customer experience does not require from the customer to download anything. So they don't need to download an app. They don't need to register anywhere. Their entire experience is web-based, and they will get either an email or a text message with a link where they can track the driver and enjoy the entire experience. So if I'm quickly going through the flow of one order, as I said, it starts with the customer. Customer places an order, whether it is by phone, email, website, native mobile app, and the order is then sent to Bringg. You will see your order, the new order that came in on your Bringg dashboard, and the next thing to do would be to dispatch it to a driver. As soon as a driver gets a new order assigned to him or her, they will get a push notification with all the order details and an option to accept or reject the order. Once I accept the order, it was added to my list, and I can see all the details. And as I said, you can, as a driver, you can navigate to the customer, you can communicate with the customer via phone or messages, and of course you have all the details, including notes that the customer left, like do not ring the doorbell because the baby is sleeping in the house. As soon as your driver is ready to deliver or to head towards the customer, the driver will click I'm on my way. And the next thing that happens is that the customer gets a push notification, either email or SMS notification, with a text that you can configure, and we'll see that in the account settings once we go into the live dashboard. The text will say anything you choose to say, something like, hi Marie, the delivery you ordered is on the way, and it will provide the customer with a link that they can click in order to view where the driver is. They can view a real-time ETA. The whole page can be branded with your color and your logo. Again, all of that can be easily done from the Bringg dashboard. And the customer can also communicate with the driver. So the customer can call the driver or send a text message to the driver. When the driver arrives, by the way, we have something we call a virtual doorbell. So sometimes your customer is at home but not really near the door, or maybe they stepped over to the neighbors. This web-based interface will vibrate and show this message that says, hey, I'm here, and will let the customer know that the driver is arriving. When the driver arrives, they can collect a proof of delivery. It can be a photo, signature, form that they fill out, anything that you require from your drivers in order to collect proof of delivery. And the last thing that would happen is that the driver would click left location, and by default your customer will see a rating page where they can rate your service. This can be enabled or disabled, and you can also decide that below a certain rating you want to ask your customer what went wrong or how can we improve, and get real feedback from your customers, which later or immediately you can view from the dashboard and communicate with the customer accordingly. So if you got low rating for some reason, the power of this tool is that you can see that immediately, have customer care, call the customer immediately, call the driver immediately, and really see what went wrong and improve from that moment and on. So this is kind of the high level of what we do, and I think that we can kind of start diving in to how to get started, how to set up your account, what you need to think of when you get started with Bringg, what you need to think of when you're adding this great technology into your operations and into your day-to-day operations. So I'm quickly going into the Bringg dashboard, and when you get started with Bringg, this is basically what you see. So as soon as you create your new account, you will see a first demo order that we create automatically. And I encourage everyone that has started or is starting with Bringg to give it a try. On this order, you would be the admin. The first admin that created the account would be the driver assigned, and also the customer. So you kind of get the feeling of Bringg from all different angles. You're being the admin, the driver, and the customer. And I think this is a really good place to kind of stop for a second and talk about user roles on Bringg. So I mentioned driver, dispatcher, admin, customer. These are all very, very important terms. So Bringg allows you to have a hierarchy of roles. We started with the driver, and let's talk about the driver first of all. So a driver is a user on Bringg that can access only the mobile app. So every user that you mark as a driver can access the mobile app using either their phone number or email address and password that you set for them in order to log in, receive orders, and mark their status. The second user that I already mentioned is an admin. An admin is someone that can manage the entire account. So you have access to all the orders, all the drivers, all the tabs up here, which we will quickly go through, and of course the account settings that can be found right in the profile picture on the top right. Another role that we have in this hierarchy is dispatcher. A dispatcher And you know what, let me quickly go into the settings so that you can see all of the user roles. So if I'm going to settings and then users, you can see the different user roles that I have. So we said driver can access the mobile app, and admin can access everything on the account, all the orders, all the drivers. And a dispatcher is very similar to admin, and it's actually the very natural meaning of a dispatcher. A dispatcher can see drivers, can see orders, can see history, but cannot change the settings on the account. Another thing that a dispatcher is useful for is in case you have teams on your account, in case you want to break down your large account into teams. Teams can be based on area or based on service that they provide, so that each time one of your customers places an order, it would just go to the right team. You can also have dispatchers in charge of that team. So for example, if I operate in 2 different cities, I can create 2 different teams corresponding to those cities, have each of my drivers assigned to a team, and have a dispatcher assigned to each team. What that means is that this dispatcher that is assigned to the first city will only see orders and drivers from that specific city and not all the other orders, and same goes for the second dispatcher. The admin, of course, will see everything. So as an admin, you have access to everything. So how do we add a user? How do we make a user a driver or an admin? I think that's, so if we're thinking of first steps with your new Bringg account and kind of planning how to roll out, the first thing you would need to do is grant access to the dashboard to the admins and dispatchers that you want to add to your account, and grant access to the mobile app for your drivers. The way to do that, you can add users either from the user screen, or your dispatchers, once the day comes and they need to add new drivers, since they don't have access to the user screen, they can do it from the drivers tab. So the drivers tab will show all the different drivers, and here as well they can add a driver. So jumping back to the user screen, in order to add a driver, just click add you. Oh, by the way, so adding a driver or an admin or a dispatcher is always done in the same way. You first add the user as a driver, then you can change the privileges. So I'm going to add my first driver on this account. Let's call her Jane McGarth. And I can add a driver title if I want. And now I have to choose how I want to validate my driver. So if I'm talking about a driver, and I think it's an important tip, even though after you get started, you'll figure out the best way for you. But we find that for drivers, the easiest login is done using their phone number and a validation code that is sent to them via SMS. We find it's easier because they don't need to remember any password. It's very easy and intuitive to log in. This works only in the mobile app. So if you're adding a user that is, in advance is going to be a dispatcher or an admin, I suggest changing it to email and password. So I'll just add my new driver. I can add the phone even though I added just the email, and I have the new driver in the system. Driver or user. Now, Jane, my new user, was added as a driver, but she's actually a dispatcher. So I can very, very easily, again, change the privileges for this user, click update, and now I have a new dispatcher. Once I go into Jane's profile, I can also edit different details about her profile. So for example, again, I can add the title. I can select the team at this point. So right now I only have my default team. I can change the password if I need. And just don't forget to click save. Oops. One thing I always recommend when you add a new driver is add a picture for that driver. You can either upload the picture from the dashboard, or you can enable your drivers to upload the picture from their app. The reason I recommend adding a picture is, well, it increases the sense of let's say, of security for your customers. So when someone knocks on their door, they know who that is. And we also find that, we found through experience that it it also can increase the tips for your drivers. So when you kind of plan how to get started with your drivers, it is important for them to know. It creates something very personal between the driver and the customer, because as you remember, the customer can view the picture before the driver gets there, and we see that it increases tip rates. Now, when I'm talking about rolling out, and I think that's kind of the main goal of this webinar, and this will also determine the different things that we would like to see today. So when you plan to roll out, there are a few questions that you would like to think of. First of all, how are you going to get orders entered into Bringg? Are you going to use a CSV upload? That's an option on Bringg that you can configure from your settings. So are you going to add CSV orders? Are you going to create an API integration? As you probably all know, Bringg has a very elaborate open APIs, and you can basically connect any system to Bringg fairly easily. So this is an option if you're working with your own system and you want to create a connection between the two. This would be a great solution. And of course, you can always add orders manually. So adding an order manually is just done through add order. You enter all the details. So this will be my customer, and I'll need to create a new one and add all the details so that I can add a new order. So that's just adding an address. Oh, select the theme, of course. And I got a new order into the system. So very, very quickly. So this is the first question, and the answer depends in a way on your use case. So if you deliver or have a service that is usually planned ahead, so you have a few shifts or one shift every day, and when the driver or when the service person arrives to their shift, they know what, or you know what the plan for the day is, you can use CSV. It's a very simple option. You just load the CSV once or twice a day with all the different orders planned in advance, and your drivers will get to their shift, start shift on their app, and start going. So nothing when things are planned ahead, CSV is a great option. APIs, of course, can work in that case as well. If you work more on demand, so food delivery that is ordered on demand services, all those kind of scenarios would require either a manual entry or API integration, since you can't really upload a CSV every time a new order comes in. The rhythm is much faster. So that would be the question of how do you want to add an order. Another question would be how do you operate today in terms of dispatching? So well, on top of how you operate today, it's also important to think, how would you like to operate? How would you like to improve your efficiency? So dispatching can be done, again, either manually. I just take my order and assign it to I guess I don't have other drivers other than myself, because I changed Jane to be a dispatcher. But I can either assign my order manually from the dashboard. I can also choose our auto dispatch method, which will go through all of my available drivers and select the one that is most suitable to carry the order. And I can use something we call grab mode. So leave the choice to my drivers to choose which order they want to grab, because all of the orders will go to all of the drivers. And again, here the decision really varies between businesses and between different industries that you work in. So if you want to give the drivers more control to choose what they want to do, or if you deliver from the same location all the time, so the drivers have to come back, you can send all of your orders to the drivers that are close to the center, so close to the home base, let's say, restaurant, warehouse, whatever it is that you deliver from. And the drivers will have the responsibility to respond and take the order. It reminds a little bit of the way Uber works today. I assume all of you know Uber. So on Uber, all the drivers in the area get the message about a new ride that is waiting to be taken, and the first one to grab it wins the ride. So this kind of shifts responsibility to your drivers. If you prefer to have more control of who takes what or more optimization, you can use auto dispatch and let the algorithm really find the most suitable driver. And of course, you can always override manually. Whatever happens, you can override manually. And I guess the last question that you should ask yourself when you plan a rollout is, what's my timeline? And who's involved? Who do I need to get involved in this process? So usually what I would recommend is, first of all, take a few days, a day or two, to try it out internally within the team. So you can all become drivers on your own account. You can add yourselves and your colleagues as drivers and as dispatchers, and dispatch orders to yourselves so that you can get the real feeling of how it works and what it means to be a driver and what it means to be a customer as well. So you can dispatch orders to each other and take a day, it's not even a full day, but take a little time to get the feeling of how it works, what it does, so that when you move it on to your dispatchers and drivers, you already know how it works. Then the next thing I would do is really get the dispatchers on board and make sure they know what they're looking at on the dashboard, and we will go through that right now. The third step would be getting the drivers on board and making sure that they understand what they're looking at when using Bringg, and we'll go over that as well. And then it's very much up to you. You can start if you have multiple locations or a high volume of orders. Again, I recommend starting step by step. So take another 2 days or a day and use just a few drivers, a few locations, and dispatch a restricted amount of activity, a restricted volume to a few drivers. The benefit of doing that is that those drivers will give you feedback on the different settings that you chose for your account. They will give you feedback on the dispatching method that you chose. They will give you feedback on the driver privileges that you decided on. And then you can make those changes. And once you roll it out to all your drivers, you already get an idea of what they need and what would work better for them. So now that we've kind of have the plan in our head, and again, you can do, as you heard already, you can do the full rollout, settings, testing internally, rolling out to training dispatchers, training drivers, rolling out to a restricted amount of drivers, gathering feedback, and full rollout. You can do all of that within a week. You can take more time or less time depending on your business, depending on your drivers, and really get this going in a few days. So let's talk about the dispatchers and what they need to know when they start using Bringg. So on Bringg, as you can see, we have a few tabs and we have a few views, and I would love to go over them because these are important for your dispatchers. So where you start is the dispatch view. This is the most useful view for the day-to-day management. This is where you see what happens. So you see all the orders. You will see all your drivers that are on shift, so you can switch between on shift and off shift. So right now I am off shift, but you can switch between that. You can switch between your teams if you have access to more than one team. And you can see a map with flags that mark the location of the orders. So this is the destination of one of my orders. and you will see the drivers on this map as well. Another option to look at what's going on right now is the list view. The list view allows you to, again, see all of the details that we talked about. It also allows you to do some bulk actions. So I can select 2 orders and assign both of them to the same driver, or I can cancel multiple orders. I can print a schedule for my drivers. All of this I can do from the list view very easily. The list view also allows me to group orders, so I can group them by driver or by team. As we said, teams would be corresponding to cities or to different services that you provide. So again, it gives you a better view of what's going on where. And another nice thing that you can do on the list view is customize what columns you're seeing in the list. Sorry. So if I'm clicking on customize, I can decide that I don't want the order name and I want order created to appear after my next stop, for example, and maybe scheduled to be in the beginning. So I make those changes here in the list. I can add, the ETA to the first stop if I want, any different details that you want from here, and I click apply. As soon as I do that, I get a new view. So now I have scheduled for moved here to the 3rd position, and I have ETA added. I can also play with the width of those columns. So I just catch the field and I drag it, and this will save the settings as I chose them. This customization applies also to the map view. So now that I move to the map view again, I have this status column narrower, I have scheduled for, I have ETA here. ETA is empty, by the way, because ETA is calculated only when the driver starts the task. So this would be the dispatch screen. This is the main screen that your dispatchers would look at. The second screen is history. And this screen is very, very important. So, let's complete a task here, just for the sake of example. So I can complete a task from the dashboard. And now when I look in history, I will see all of my done or canceled orders. And when I look into one of the orders, I basically can get all the different details about that order. So I know when it was scheduled for, what time it started, what time it arrived, and what time it left. If this was a real order when a driver was driving around, I would also be able to replay the route that the driver took by clicking on this play button right here. And really, I can see all the different details, all the notes, all the proof of delivery that was taken, all of them will be added to the history. The history screen is a great screen for your customer care service. If a customer calls and asks a question or has a comment about a past delivery or a past service that they got, your customer care people can just go into this expanded search and search the order by ID or by name. So if Mary calls me, I just look for Mary and I'll get all of her orders. It's a very useful view. This is the power of visibility, so that if anything happens, you don't need to call your drivers and ask what they did, where they were, how long it took them, did they take a signature. All of these details are available on the Bringg dashboard. And this is true for dispatch orders as well. So orders that are on the way and the customer calls and says, what's going on with my order, or what's going on with my service person that was supposed to be here. You don't need to call your service person. You can just see them on the map. You can see where they are. You can see what's going on with the task. So what is the status, and was it started already or not, and what's the ETA? You get all those details from right here. And as we said, dispatchers can also add drivers and generate different reports on the reports page. So we talked about the dispatchers, and this is what your dispatchers need to know and what they need to do. One of the important things for dispatchers is really to kind of check that all of the drivers that should be working are working, and that all of the drivers are online. Online means that they have GPS turned on, so they have location updates from their phone, and that they have cellular data, of course. Otherwise, the dashboard will not be able to communicate with them. And now we can talk about the drivers. So training the drivers is probably the most important thing to do when you roll out using Bringg. The drivers need to know how to use the app and what's going on, and what are the implications of the different actions that they take on the app. So first of all, on our website, there is a section of videos where you can download and watch videos from about the driver app. So you can let your drivers watch them, and they can get the feeling of what it means to use the app and how they should do it. Second of all, it's important for the drivers to know that a few key points about the driver app. First of all, and this is a question that comes up a lot from drivers, there is a small slider where they need to start and end shift. So drivers start their shift when they start working, and they really should end shift when they stop working. As long as they are on shift, their location will appear on the map, and you can see where they are. And also, as long as they are on shift, they can get orders dispatched to them. When they're off shift, they cannot be tracked, and they will not receive any push notifications or any orders. And that's important for you and your drivers to know. Also, a question that comes up a lot from drivers is when can the customer track them? And this is very important because this is a big change for the better that the drivers need to be aware of. As soon as a driver clicks start on an order, as we saw before on the app, the customer can start tracking that driver. And that means a few things. And as soon as the driver clicks start, the customer can track the driver. And as soon as the driver clicks arrived, the customer can no longer track the driver no matter what happens. So as soon as the driver arrives and delivers the service or the product that he or she needed to deliver, the tracking option is disabled for the customer. However, when the driver clicks start and the customer can now track the driver, that your drivers should know that they really have, someone is now watching them, and they need to really go to that customer. And it happens every day, and it happens to all drivers that they start a task, but then something comes up and they need to stop, they need to go somewhere else, they need to make a change to the plan. Usually they would update you or the dispatcher, which is what they should do. Now you, your dispatchers, and your drivers need to keep in mind that your customers also have visibility into what's going on. And if there is a change, they need to get an update as well. So this is an important thing to remember. And then finally, so we have the dispatchers and how to get them ready, and we have the drivers and what they need to kind of know and learn about the app. Other than those two things, the app is very, very friendly for the drivers, and the comments we get from drivers are really great, and we're happy that we're able to provide this kind of tool to drivers. And then the final thing in order to get ready to roll is really go to the settings and get the account set up according to what you need and the way you want to work. So a few settings I would like to stop on, and we'll end with that and open it to questions. First set of settings are the customer notification and the customer experience, and those can be found here. So customer notifications allows you to customize the messages that you're sending to your drivers. So you can enable and disable each of the messages. We allow 3 of them. One on the beginning of the task, one at the arrival of the driver, and one on at the end of the task when the driver leaves, which will be usually used for either thanking the customer for using the service or asking for a rating. So you can enable and disable each of them. You can disable all notifications whatsoever, and you can decide whether you want to use email, SMS, or both. As for the customer experience, you can change it from here, from customer app. You can change the color that you use for your business. So I can change mine to, let's say, green, if that's my brand color. I can change the text as well if I need. And I can change the logo to add the logo of my business, and I can change the driver pin and customer flag as I wish. So there is a select of pins that we created that I can change from here, or you can upload your own graphics, of course. And this change also applies to the dashboard right here. So this will be the first set of settings, how to customize the customer experience to what you need. And if I'm thinking of different businesses and the way you want to work, I usually recommend sending either 1 or 2 notifications to your customers. Sending 3 notifications to your customer on a course of 10 to 20 minutes might be a little excessive. So an SMS in the beginning or an email in the beginning so that they can track and enjoy the experience is very, very much recommended. And a message at the end to thank your customers is always a great thing to do. As for the message on the arrival, this would suit businesses where you really need to make sure that your customer knows that you arrived. So whether it is something that they need to do, they need to, if it's a service for a business and they need to open a gate to the parking, for example, or if they need to go to the street from their apartment and they need some kind of, when your customer needs to do something when you arrive to them, I would also add this alert on arrival. Now, the second set of configurations that you can do is regarding the driver. So right here, you can find different configurations for the driver. For example, hands-free mode allows your drivers to check in and out from the locations without clicking the app. So we recognize the location and we check your drivers in and out when they arrive. You can also enable and disable different features on the driver app. Like we said, allow drivers to add profile picture. You can choose to allow it or you can choose to disable it. One thing I would keep in mind, again, if I'm talking about different businesses, if you require the drivers to add proof of delivery, I would recommend checking hands-free off. And the reason is they have the app in their hand anyways. So they need to do different actions. They might as well click finish when they're really done. On the other side of the businesses, you have some of you have drivers that drive around on motorcycles and really can't access the app so much, and they don't need to because they don't collect proof of delivery. All they need to do is let you and the customers know where they are, what's their status, and then hands-free and auto start can be really good for them because they can keep the phone in their pocket and just drive and deliver everything they need to deliver. So those would be the considerations on whether you should or you should not use hands-free. And then the third set of configurations is merchant configurations. There are many different options here. Some of them I already mentioned, some of them I will not go into, but you can really give them a try and check them. And if you have any questions, you can email to our support@bringg.com. The option that I already mentioned was grab mode that we talked about before. So all orders go to all drivers, and auto dispatch so that we select the most suitable driver based on their location, availability, etc. So now that we talked about how to train your dispatchers, how to train your drivers, what are the decisions you need to make when you start working with Bringg? How are you going to dispatch the orders? How do you want them to be sent into Bringg manually, API integration, CSV upload? All of those decisions you need to make within your team, and then you can set up the account accordingly. I would be happy to reply to some questions at this point. So let's see what we have. Okay, so we have a few questions. So we have a question from David regarding the virtual doorbell that I mentioned on the customer experience. And David asks if the customer was tracking the driver, but then he closes the browser and moves to a different app on the phone, will the doorbell work or not? And the question is the answer is that it will not work. It only works if your browser is open. since it is not a real app, it's not a native app, it's a web view. And that's a good point to mention, that if you do have your own native app, you can implement the entire experience into your app using our SDK. So this is a very powerful tool, because then instead of text messages, you can send push notifications. You can have the entire experience embedded into your app and to an environment that your customers are used to. And by the way, you can keep both of them happening in parallel. So customers of yours that place an order through the app and have an app will get a push notification and see the entire experience inside the app. And other customers that do not have the app and place an order over the phone or through your website, they will get an SMS or an email, just like the off-the-shelf products. We have another question from Leslie about how teams are assigned to locations. If I understand the question correctly, so teams are an entity that you create on your own. And in order to create teams, by the way, you go to drivers, and you can see here the button for teams, and you can create new teams here. So I can create my Brooklyn team, let's say. So you create your teams any way you want them, and then you assign your drivers. Oh, sorry, I see my screen is not working. Hold on. So let me show you that again. I go to my drivers tab. I click on teams, and I can add a new team right here. So teams are an entity that you create on your own on your Bringg account. And then you assign drivers to those teams. And you also assign the orders to those teams. And then orders from one team can only be dispatched to drivers from that same team. If your question is about locations and how you map between orders that arrive from a certain location to the right team, this mapping has to be done externally to Bringg. So usually it's done through API. Since you have your own zip codes and you know which zip codes, for example, correspond with which team, you can do the mapping, and once the order is entered to Bringg, it already carries a Bringg ID. We have a question from Nathaniel. Are dispatchers able to have multiple screens? So dispatchers, well, you can open the map view and the list view in parallel, so that dispatchers can view different screens at the same time on the dashboard, of course. On the mobile app, obviously, you have to switch between the screens. And we have another question from Rahul, asking about the drivers and when can an admin, where can an admin see the drivers and what they do. So as soon as the drivers start their shift, that's when you can see what's going on with them. You can see which orders they will not be able to do anything on the app until they start their shift. So a driver will not be able to hit start on a task before he or she started their shift. And as long as the drivers are off shift, you cannot see where they are, you cannot see what they do, obviously. When they're off shift, it's as if they're not connected to the app and they're not connected to the system. And another question about the driver app is how much data on average does the app consumes? Well, we find that, again, it varies between locations and volumes, but we find that even with the busiest businesses, a plan of 1 or 1.5 gigabytes per month is more than enough to use Bringg in addition to other platforms like Google Maps or Waze, like every other app that you have on your phone. So you don't need to increase your data plan usually to use Bringg, unless you're using a very, very small, lower than 1 gigabyte plan a month, and then it usually means that your driver is not using a lot of applications, and now that they use Bringg, it means that they start using a mobile application every day for a few hours during the day. And we have another interesting question here by Rahul about orders with multiple steps. So different stops about the order? This is a great question, and I'm going to answer that in just a moment, and I'll show you how you can get this done. Okay, let's see the other questions that we have here, just so I can make sure that is all done. So I see a question from Nathaniel about how does invoicing work. If you could elaborate on that a little bit more, I'll be happy to answer. And we have a question from Sergey about auto dispatch. So auto dispatch, it allows you to do a few things. So first of all, on the dashboard where you saw in the settings auto dispatch that is in the default mode of it, that is available in the settings themselves, it has a few optimizations that we allow. One of the optimizations is based on distance, so the order will be dispatched to the nearest driver. Another option is based on the driver's availability. So we'll always prefer the most available driver, even if he's a little further, so that the order will be delivered to the customer a little much faster. And the other optimization is the opposite. So we'll always prefer to have the same driver do as many deliveries as possible, as long as they make it on time. On top of all of that, if you create an API integration with our system, you can decide on your own rules. So on our website, there is a documentation of all of our API. Sorry. On our website, you can find our developers portal with a documentation of all of our API. One of the applications that you can add to your system once you create the integration is something we call auto dispatch. You can find it all the way to the bottom, and it allows you to select your own rules. So if you can write those rules, we can execute them. So you select your own rules. You prefer drivers that are near and then available, and it's basically a filter through which we kind of take all the drivers and then select the best one. And finally, I'm going back to Rahul's question about multiple stops per order. So when you create an order manually, I'll show it manually and then it applies also to CSV and to API, you can always add another stop. So let's say my case is that I'm going to a restaurant to pick up the food, and then I'm driving towards the customer to deliver. So my first stop will be North Pizza, which is my restaurant, and I'll add the restaurant address here. And then my second stop would be my customer. And this is how you would do it manually. When you use API, it's the same structure. We call it waypoints, and you just create the order with two stops, two waypoints. Waypoint number one being your first stop, so it can be your pickup location or just the first part of your order, and the second part being the second stop. There is no limit on how many stops you can add within the same order. So if you have orders in 4 different parts, you can add 4 different waypoints as an array within the API call. And same goes for CSV. You can add multiple lines on the CSV for multiple waypoints within the order, as long as they all carry the same order ID. So just to make sure if we don't have any other questions, so we have one last question. So there is a question from Nathaniel here on invoicing, and I think that since it's quite a specific question, I encourage you, Nathaniel, to communicate with us through support@bringg.com or contact us through the website so that we can answer specifically to that. So thank you very much for attending. And any other questions that come up, please email us and ask us, and we will be happy to help and assist with that. And I hope you all start rolling out with all of your drivers and dispatchers and really enjoy the Bringg experience. Thank you for attending, and have a good rest of your day.